That is staggering. Alp Mehmet's here, Chairman of Migration Watch, with the news, of course, that 919 migrants crossed the Channel in 14 boats just on Friday alone, pushing the total for the year to just over 16,000, 1,500 over the course of the weekend. So we're nearly at 40,000 since Labour got in. Alp, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Apparently, Keir Starmer's upset that the French are not doing enough, but he doesn't quite say it. He says that, you know, they're working together to make sure that nobody makes that crossing. But it doesn't seem to be working, and it's going to get worse, isn't it, over the course of the next few weeks as the weather improves?
Well, I recall saying it's going to get worse 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And the reason is that people will come over because illegally in small boats because it works. They know that they're not going to be removed. And each time you hear the Prime Minister come up with something about cracking down, about waving his finger at the French, you know for sure that things are not going the way that they would like them. And they know they're not going to go the way that they want them to go. Numbers will keep going up until when they arrive, we detain them, we deal with them quickly and remove them. Until that happens, then the numbers will keep going up. And the French, they've got enough on their hands with the illegal population in their country. They're not going to do anything about it if they can possibly avoid it.
No. And when you see, for example, people like Darren Jones appearing on Newsnight and Question Time and basically telling a story which is wrong, which is fake, where he's made out that, you know, most of the people coming on these boats are women and children. He now says, oh, that was because I made a mistake because I actually saw these boats with women and children in them when I went down to Dover. You can tell that the narrative inside of the government is still that we don't want to stop them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They can't. Even if they wanted to, they can't. And everything they've done so far just makes that crystal clear that they can't do it and they don't want to do what is necessary, which is to do what I said earlier about detaining. In order to do that and remove people, we've got to make clear that the ECHR is something that we're going to withdraw from. We've also got to make clear that the Human Rights Act is going to be repealed and something else put in its place, and that we're actually going to do what we say. Otherwise, this year, I'm pretty confident that we're going to end up with over 50,000 that we know about. Coming across in small boats. That's not acceptable.
That's not acceptable, and there's no chance that you'd be wrong about that. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I was predicting that you might get to 50,000 actually before we get to July the 4th, because at the moment it's tipping up on 40,000. And if the weather stays as calm, I mean, you see that boat there. I mean, it looks like the Serpentine. You know, there's literally no waves whatsoever, and the channel was pretty calm at the weekend. I was down there myself, just off the south coast, and there's no reason why you couldn't get sort of 1,500 to 2,000 coming in the next 2 weeks. It'll be another 4,000.
Indeed, yeah, and it's all of a sudden the weather will change, and you can bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be some deaths as well if the weather suddenly changes and they're out at sea and all of a sudden things go wrong. The other reason that I believe that the government actually is not, they're not really especially keen on doing anything about it, is the sort of evidence and what we hear about what they're going to do to the a detention estate. They're going to expand it. We hear about the money being committed to illegal migrants and asylum seekers. We hear about those that they're going to put in, instead of hotels, they're going to put in private rented accommodation, which in itself is potentially so damaging and makes it so much more difficult for young people actually to go and be able to pay a reasonable rent. It drives it out of their range, and all these things really what makes me so desperately sad that we've got a government that hasn't got the courage, that hasn't got the nous actually to do what is necessary and make clear that if you come here illegally, you're not going to stay.
Right. And they also have hinted at using, you know, kind of student accommodation stroke, you know, hostel type accommodation, other types of dwellings which might have been used differently before, maybe some barracks that they might take over. Some people have taken that to be an understanding that they might actually, as a government, buy some of these migrant hotels and change the use of them and make them into hostels rather than actual hotels, which I'm not convinced they won't do, to be honest.
Well, I'm not convinced they will do either, if only because it will allow them to say, "Hey, look, we've taken everyone out of the hotels."
Yeah, and it's marginally cheaper to actually buy the property than it is to keep renting it. I mean, it's just bonkers. Alp, good to talk to you.
Well, it's cheaper in the short run, Mike, but it isn't in the long run. In the long run, it's not only more expensive, it's more damaging.
No, of course.
They've got to get their act together.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not talking about in the real world of cheaper. I'm talking about in the made-up world of politicians who can say, oh, we've saved some money by doing this. But actually, you know, you won't see how much they've spent to actually buy the property. But listen, Alp, we've got to run. Thank you very much indeed. Alp Mehmet, Chairman of Migration.